Hey guys, welcome to the next installment of Pitching 101. I'm your host, Trevor May, Minnesota Twins pitcher and YouTuber / Twitch streamer. This week we have a really interesting topic to talk about. I actually got it from the comments of last week's video. Don't forget to comment below and subscribe to the channel for future videos, and your comments are very helpful in deciding what the next video is going to be about. When the season starts up, or when spring training starts up, a lot of this stuff is going to be more relevant to things that have happened that week. Maybe even having some teaching moments from our team or from things I did for the most part. I'm going to probably stay away from critiquing my teammates too much, or other teams or other players, because I'm not in their shoes. But things that are relevant to maybe things we've talked about in the past, and that something that maybe getting a new perspective would help on. Those things are going to start making their way into the video too, as well as your input from the comments. So don't forget to participate in the conversation, again, in the comments below, and I'd be eternally grateful. And also don't forget to hit it with the little thumbs up at the end, all right? Okay, so this week, our topic is... about I saw the comment and I knew immediately that's what we're going to do this week on is the differences between quote unquote pitching to contact and going for swings and misses. Now, before I get into this, I want to preface the idea that I've always been a go for strikeouts pitchers. That has pros and that has cons. I'm going to go over those pros and cons of both swings and misses and quote unquote pitching to contact. First of all, though, before I start, I want to talk about how I hate the phrase pitching to contact. The only way you will ever get hurt or really struggle as a pitcher is if you give up tons and tons of contact. Okay, so that it's a misleading statement. It's you would like them to hit the ball. Everyone would love everyone to swing and miss every single time. That would make you the most dominant pitcher in the world. So that's obviously not feasible for everybody. So this term said, be okay with pitching to contact. But what that does is you cross the line into anti-competitiveness very quickly. So I don't tell kids, people that I talk about pitching, to quote unquote pitch to contact. And after being in the big leagues for a bit, or going all the way through the minors with kind of a high walk rate, was told a lot to pitch to contact, but that wasn't a winning solution for me. So I don't usually use the pitching to contact phrase. I always just say, it's between you and your catcher, and what they do with the bat is what they do with the bat. So don't make decisions. I don't like to say making decisions based on trying to get the ball hit. It's more of if it's hit, this is the way I would like it to be hit, if that makes sense. So you're obviously going for your best case scenario first, and then the option B and option C of making that pitch is also a positive outcome for you, resulting in the ball being put in play. Now, that mindset a lot of times comes from being a reliever, which my job is very clear and short term. Now, if you're trying to throw more pitches and go deeper into games, tweaks a little bit as a starter, and as having a lot of experience as a starter as well, I can talk about those things. So let me just kind of delve into each school of thought and kind of how they differ and their pros and cons, okay, and then go from there. Overall, here's an overall philosophy of pitching. All right, here's my philosophy of pitching, and it's starting to really pay dividends for me in the long term. Pitching is a measure. It's a constant push and pull between measuring risk and reward of making a pitch. Okay, so you make a decision. Your game plan is determined by what is happening in the game, and it's constantly being adjusted. This is an advanced way of pitching because I have lots of information. I have lots of scouting reports. I have lots of people to ask questions for. I have a lot of resources, and a lot of people don't. But if you can start to develop this philosophy and then find that information on your own, you will develop as a pitcher as quickly as you get experience, basically. So it is literally a measure of risk and reward. You make a pitch, I pick a pitch, I then weigh what worst case scenario will happen when I throw this pitch, and what is the best case scenario has happened that'll happen when I throw this pitch, and what are my chances of achieving those two things at this point? So the ideal situation is low risk, high reward. You have a fastball that plays into someone else's swing really, really well. They don't hit your fastball very well, and where you locate well and then where you miss when you miss are both things that are not going to hurt you against that hitter. That is ideal pitch to throw. For example, someone who doesn't hit high spin rate fastballs up in the zone, I am very strong against. As a right hand, or as a kind of a high ball pitcher, if you will, I tend to miss arm side. So there's a guy who also is a high ball pitcher as well. Mike Fiers. If you watch him pitch at all, he's at top of the zone really well. And everything plays off him being kind of high in the zone. He can run his changeup up there. But when he misses arm side, the ball runs. He's throwing with his right hand and it runs to the right, up and in a lot. I also miss in that way. Now, if I'm trying to locate in the top of the zone, like for example, middle of the plate, top of the zone, and I know that I'm either going to throw it there, and if I miss, it's going to run up and in, and that's not going to hurt me. That is called a low risk, high reward pitch for me. Okay, so I make decisions based on, if I hit the spot, I have the best chance of being successful, and if I miss it, I still have a really good chance of being successful. That takes an advanced understanding of how your pitches work. Okay, and that is attained through experience. So the more you pitch, the more you realize that, oh, my ball moves in this way, or I throw a natural sinker, my ball goes down a lot. Now, we talked in a previous video about how overarching statement is guys with high spin rate and quote unquote straighter or less downward movement on their fastballs have underneath swings and misses. They either get swings and misses underneath the ball, or they get pop-ups more than ground balls, right, on their fastball. And fastball is kind of what you work off of most of the time because it's the pitch you throw the most, right? Guys who throw natural sinkers, i.e. Zach Britton, heavy sinker, he doesn't throw a four seam. So instead of my deception is the ball defying gravity for a long time. His deception is the gravity taking his ball way more than normal. So he's got plus gravity, I got negative gravity. That makes sense. Okay. Those two they can get you the same results, but for the most part, hitters naturally can see gravity, balls moving down, and so making contact with those pitches happens a little bit more often than making contact with pitches up in the zone. The problem is the balls up in the zone, when they're squared, they have a better chance of going over the fence. So a guy like Zach throws a really heavy sinker. He gives up less home runs than guys that are high in the zone. Okay, so you have an understanding of your pitch, and then you make a risk and reward assessment of throwing what the location of the pitches you want, and you have to do it quickly between pitches. Okay, this is kind of an advanced approach to pitching. Now, pitching to contact versus swings and misses. When do you want these outcomes? This is kind of an old school way of thinking about pitching, and it does make sense. There are those two schools. There are people that you can kind of shift them into each group. Pitchers fall in one of the other usually. They're high strikeouts or they're low strikeouts, but they pitch lots of contact. They can be successful, right? And they get lots of ground balls and they get lots of quick outs and they go deeper into games and so on and so forth. They eat a lot of innings and they're guys who are 200 innings plus, but their strikeouts aren't necessarily the highest in the world. And then there's guys who are hybrids like Mike Scherzer, right? He can do both. Roy Halladay could do both. He threw games where he threw Maddoxes and he struck out 3 guys and threw 9-inning shutout complete game. And then there was games where he struck out 15. He was able to do that and that same game, right? And he's kind of in a class of his own. That's when you see those Hall of Fame type guys. So when we talk about why we throw these pitches and the advanced understanding of how your stuff moves and how your stuff plays into the outcome you want. I am a swing and miss guy. I go for swings and misses because 2 reasons. I'm in the bullpen, and me throwing 25 pitches is okay as long as I get 0 in 1 inning. I have to throw 1 inning. Now, me throwing 25 pitches as a starter in 1 inning will severely limit my innings for that day. And my job not only includes I have to throw zeros and I have to eat innings, but as a reliever, you have to throw zeros. For the most part. Sometimes you got to eat a couple innings. The starter got pulled out early. You got to throw 2, and you got to be a little bit more economical. But for the most part, especially back-end bullpen guys, if they need to use more pitches to get the job done that day, they do it. And that involves getting swings and misses and getting zero value out of at-bats for hitters. If you can get a strikeout, usually they're not advancing a runner. They're not moving anyone over. They're providing zero value with the strikeout. Right. And that ideally as a back end reliever like me is important. So that is why I subscribe to that side of things, because my job and my role dictates that would make me the strongest over time that I can be in that role if I go for those things. Now, starters, for the most part, have a little bit more pitch to contact. But like I said, they make risk reward decisions about the pitch they want to throw. And contact comes into that risk evaluation more. For example, you've thrown 15 pitches in an inning. You have no outs. You've had 2 guys just battle the crap out of you. You walked 1 and 1 hit an infield single. There's nothing you can really do about it. You made a bunch of good pitches. It just didn't work out. But now, and I'll use a guy like, I think he would be more than happy for me to use him as an example here. Kyle Gibson. Kyle Gibson is a friend of mine. He is a sinker guy. This past year, he actually threw a lot more 4-seams and they played off his slider because his slider has more depth. And he had more strikeouts than he's ever had. But for the most part, in this situation, there's only a handful of guys that are as good as Kyle at getting 2 outs with 1 pitch. That is a high value situation that doesn't involve a swing and miss, right? So he would either like a strikeout because that's an out, but he gets 1 out and he's still around 20 pitches and only has 1 out. Or he can throw 1 pitch and get 2 outs and be right back on track of having a quick inning and then coming back out the next inning with still a low pitch count. That risk and reward, he might be more likely to say, okay, I'm going to throw more sinkers to this pitcher or to this hitter so that I may get a ground ball here. I would like my outcome to be a ground ball more than a strikeout because it'll keep my pitch count down. So that is a situation where you would be pitching to contact, but in reality, he is just factoring in contact being one of his high reward outcomes from the pitch. That's all it really is. Okay? So you have to be able to work pitch by pitch and make these assessments and create your game plan based on that. All right. So how does this factor into the overall process of pitching? Okay. I did a podcast episode called AFV. A lot of you guys should go back and check it out. It is phenomenal. It is a philosophy that I kind of developed when I was in AA. Because I just needed to take the next step. I really struggled in AA, and it was a more mental than anything, right? But really, it broke down the process of throwing a pitch into 3 steps. You analyze, you make a plan, you focus, you allow yourself to then lock in on that task. Like I talked about in the last video, it's setting a task and having a purpose, right? You lock in on that task, and then you execute. You do everything that physically that you do in bullpens. You let your body then take care of getting it done. Now, a lot of times you do it so many times that there's a ton of times where you just don't execute. But when an outcome happens, excuse me, when the outcome happens, you can usually attribute it to, was my game plan incorrect? No, it was good. I stick by that game plan. Was my focus there? Was it? Yeah, it was there. Was my execution there? Nah. Then when something negative happened, execution. If you say, yes, that checks out, my plan was good, yes, my focus was good, and I executed the pitch, and he still hit it, well, guess what? He just did the exact same thing that you just did, and he won. So at that point, this is the hardest thing to do in the world. You go, well, he beat me because they have a job as well. And that's it. They were better in that moment. And then on to the next one. And that's hard. That is a hard skill to learn. But so what how pitching to contact, how like pitching contact or going for a swing and miss changes That process, the AFV process, it is all part of A. You're making a decision, analyzing, you're setting your game plan. This is all A. So you're making a decision on what pitch you want to throw and why. You're like, I want to throw this because if I hit the spot, I'm going to be great. If I miss the spot, I'll still be all right. And for example, you're throwing a curveball to a righty. You're saying, where do I feel confident in my ability to either hit the spot down and away or get it off the plate to where it's going to be a ball, but I'm not going to get beat on it. He's not going to hit a homer, right? I'm not going to give up 2 runs or 1 run here. I'm either going to get a new pitch after that and work from there, or I'm going to get the pitch I wanted. And I'm going to make those decisions, and that's the way I would like my ball to move. You have a purpose behind the pitch, and you're locked in on what you're going to do. You have the best chance of achieving your end result. And that's it. So, again, let me reiterate one more time. You do not have to say, I'm a pitch to contact pitcher or I'm a swing and miss pitcher. Yes, you will do one probably better than the other. You'll be better at getting swings and misses than giving up constant contact, meaning you'll have better results overall if you're getting swings and misses than if you're not. Those guys exist. I was one of them. If I wasn't getting swings and misses, I was getting shellacked. But that's because my location of my pitches were bad. And usually it's those extremes for me. And I that's why my entire career was this. Incredible outing, 13 strikeouts, 2 innings, 8 runs. And then it just evened out to being like pretty good. But it was the height of my roller coaster and the low of my roller coaster was a lot higher, a lot lower than a lot of other guys who were just way more consistent. But the ceiling and the floor was just higher and lower, right? But at the end, we were the same pitcher statistically wise. So I wanted to bring these together and play as good as I can, as consistent as I can. And a lot of this came from a lot of discovery, when I was rehabbing. And so I haven't had a lot of innings because of injuries in the last 3 years to really, really like long-term months and months and months continue to make sure I'm on this track. So I'm really excited that I can play this video for you and also have it there for me to watch later, because there are times where I also get to like, oh, things are going poorly. If another thing happens, then this will happen, then this will happen, then I'll be released. Like, that's a very easy path to follow. And so it's all about being consistent in your mindset. So I would say try not to lump yourself into I'm a contact pitcher because I don't throw very hard or whatever, or I'm a swing and miss pitcher, but I can't pitch to contact, so I need to swing and miss. The pros and cons here are pitch to contact. Don't get a lot of strikeouts, so it's very hard for you to get out of a bases loaded, no out situation because you give up lots of contact, right? If you need a strikeout, you can't really get it as well. That lowers your value. But at the same time, if you get a lot of contact, you have a good defensive team, then you throw lots of innings, which is valuable. That's kind of a generalization, but that kind of is the overarching theme. The other way, if you get swings and misses and that's what you go for all the time, you have a tendency of throwing a lot of balls. This was my MO all the way through the minors. Yes, he strikes a lot of guys out. He also only goes 5 innings every time because he throws 100 pitches trying to strike everybody out. He needs to get quicker outs as a starter. So those are a pro, and that's a pro and that's a con of switching. But you don't need to be one or the other. You need to understand how those pitching philosophies factor into how you make pitching decisions. And a lot of those decisions you make are based on how your stuff moves and how much you know about that hitter. That's it. It's understanding who you are as a pitcher and how those things factor in to getting the outcomes that you want and knowing what those outcomes are. That's pitching. I'm at the highest level. That is what the greats do. That is what everyone's doing one way or the other, whether it's front of the mind conscious or something they naturally do. That is the process people go through when they make pitching decisions. And that is kind of the difference between those schools of thought. And it's the school of thought has developed a lot over the last few years with all sabermetrics and the additional like scientific data we have on how balls move. So I would say, as you're developing yourself, if you pigeonhole yourself early, before you can really understand, if you're a middle school kid, if you're 12, 13, 14, 15, if you say, oh, I have this kind of ball, and when you're developing, your body's developing, you don't know what kind of stuff you do correct. Well, what I would say is try to learn and develop yourself as much as possible. Be like, wow, I do this really well. Wow, I have a good curveball. Why is my curveball good? So a lot of people ask, oh, should I go to Driveline? Should I go to this pitching academy and this thing? Now, I don't know a lot of specifics about a lot of these programs, but I do know a lot of it is scientifically driven by like they can check your spin rates and tell you how your stuff moves and where your strengths are and where some of your weaknesses are in your pitches and how they're developing and how they're changing over time. All that stuff's really cool and valuable if you know what to do with it. All that stuff is moving you towards making a lot of these decisions that I've talked about in this video, which is good. It's a great thing. And I myself am looking into getting more concrete information on how I move and how stuff. I learned a lot about this from our analytics department with the Twins, with the information we're getting in AAA now and trying in the minor leagues, and it's given me a lot of confidence. It's shed a lot of light on why I've had some of the success I've had and why I've had some of the failure I've had. So it's all about learning yourself, right? So if I had to leave you anything from this video, it would be this. Try not to pigeon yourself as one or the other, and try to make decisions for why you are pitching the way you're pitching based on things that you know about yourself that make you successful, and try to learn those things much as possible. It's never too early to start making decisions like that, because it's an advanced way of pitching. And then as you learn more, just plug it in. All right? So, thank you so much for being here for Pitching 101. This has been the video comparing pitching to contact versus swings and misses. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit a thumbs up on the bottom underneath the video here. Subscribe and ring that bell. Guys, we have a new video coming out every week. I'm just spitballing, really. I put down some notes. I kind of just let myself give an explanation, and then we go from there. So don't forget to leave some comments down in the comment section, and get this conversation going. Anything else you would like to see in a future video, or anything that you would like me to expand on, I try to answer your questions in the comments. I try to pay attention as much as possible. It's an important thing for me. This is one of my 2019 resolutions, is over communicating and over engaging. So I really do appreciate you coming by and checking out the video, and I'll see you next week.